for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Thus storing up treasures for themselves. When we, parang money exchange eh. Money exchange. You exchange your money here on earth to be deposited in heaven. Parang ganun eh. Right? It's not that God is telling you, okay, swap tayo. Give me your pesos in exchange for dollars. Right? It's not that when you give it away, it's gone forever. No, dideposit mo lang sa langit. It's as simple as that. Yet the problem with man is, kaya nga sinabi dito eh, in verse 17 eh, right? As for the rich, in the special, they charge them not to be hot, not to set their hopes on the uncertainty of their riches. The problem with man now is that they find their security on their richness, on their wealth. I have a friend, whenever we go to the States before, pag walang magawa, he would go to the ATM account, America. He'll put his ATM card, he will just check his deposits. After checking his deposits, makita niya, oh, laki-laki. Tapos, aalis na siya. He just wants to see how much money he has in the bank, and he becomes happy and content, and he finds his security there. And that's how we are, right? We want to store up here our treasures here on earth, because we find by having a lot of it, we find our security in it. But God tells us, no. Put your trust not on the riches, but on me, God. Give it to me and store it up here in heaven, is what he's saying. That's why when Paul says, when you give to me, you are increasing your credit already in heaven. Go to Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10, verse 40. It says, he who receives you, receives me. And he who receives me, receives him who sent me. He who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever in the name of the disciples gives to one of these little ones even a cup of cold water to drink, truly I say to you, he shall not lose his reward. This church here, what Jesus is saying here, when you receive Christ, you receive God. But the thing here is this, not all of us will have the opportunity to meet Christ face to face, right? None of us, imposible, will meet Christ face to face. Therefore, we must respond to Christ by seeking his disciples, by serving other believers. And when you do that, you are receiving Christ, therefore you are receiving God. And at that time, the context here is, when you receive one of these prophets, most of the time the host is put in danger, because you have an unwanted guest. It's like saying that all of a sudden in your house, your old friend Kerwin Espinosa knocks and says, "Can I stay here? People are looking for me." What's the chance of you accepting? Very nil, right? And during the time, it's the same. Because some of these prophets are being persecuted. You know, you know why the prophets or the disciples of Jesus were being persecuted? It's not because they believe in Christ or they believe in God. It's because they refuse to give allegiance to Caesar. And because of that, there are riots going on. They really did not care about Christ, the Romans. They really did not care about their belief. As long as you keep the peace. And the problem is, if this is a map of the Roman Empire, and Rome is here, this Jerusalem was literally at the end. So nasa outskirts siya ng Roman Empire. And there's always a threat from this, I think, Assyrian in this side. That's why it's always important for them to keep the peace. And the church, the Christians at that time were not keeping the peace. Because they are refusing allegiance to Caesar. That's why here, when you accept them into your household, really, you're accepting an insurgent into your household. And you're putting yourself at risk. And Christ said this, when you accept them into your house, you're accepting me. Because I am in them. And guess what? You will be rewarded for that. You will be rewarded. Go to Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14, verse 12 says, and he also went on to say to the one who invited him, when you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your rich neighbors. Otherwise, they may also invite you in return that you will be and that will be your repayment. But when you give a reception, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Since they do not have the means to repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. When we help, right? Like in this case, kaya nga sabi ko kanina, it's like throwing pearls into the swine. Because Paul cannot help them anymore. Paul cannot reciprocate apart from just writing these letters to them. And we are to serve our fellow believers. Because when we serve them, we are helping ourselves and we are serving God. You don't have to turn here. Psalm 24 verse 1 says, the earth is the Lord and all it contains, the world and those that dwells in it. That's why I'm saying, God is requiring us to give something which is not ours. And the problem with, sabi ko nga you see this mga foundation against cancer, against poverty, against all that stuff. Millions and millions and millions of people for a good cause. But for the cause of Christ, parang wala. Right? My son always talks to me, Dad, when I grow older, can I have this foundation to help the animals? So what? Help the animals? Why do you want to help the animals? So the Bible says we'll take care of the poor, right? We'll take of the orphanage, and we'll take of the widows, and we will, for us it's helping poor pastors. Ito, he wants to help animals. What value is that, anak? Right? And sabi ko nga, if only the resources of God entrusted to men of God were used for the work of God, then that would be good. I have another friend, though. He likes really helping. He really likes helping mga tribes for Christian cause. Lumapit sa akin one time. Kumusta na? Blah, 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 blah. Alam mo, ang problema ko, sabi niya, yung wife, masyadong ganun. Whenever I give, yung wife ang gumaganon, sabi sa akin. But we have to realize, it's not ours to keep. Imagine, God, it's like this. Erwin, I give you money, and I tell you, Erwin, just return it to me, and I'll reward you in heaven. Ito yung panyo. Sabi mo sa akin. It's that simple, really, the analogy, right? I give you something, and say, ito, pahiram ko lang sa'yo, 2 minutes. Ang problema was, nahawakan natin, binulsan na eh. Ayaw na natin, it's ours. I hold it, I control it, I own it, I'll use it the way I want. I'll use it for my plans, my dreams, my aspirations. But that's God's money entrusted to godly people to use for God's ministry. And it ends up being used for your personal gains, for your personal pleasure. Right? Look what happens when we do this. Verse 18. Philippians chapter 4, verse 18. But I received everything in full and have an abundance. Again, in context, the church in Philippi, in Macedonia, is dirt poor. They were really, really poor. They started rich, but apparently something happened. They became poor. Yet, Paul said, I received everything in full and have an abundance. I am amply supplied. You remember I told you in some jails, they don't even feed you. You are really dependent on your friends to supply you food. And that's a problem during that time, because if you are considered a problem in the Roman Empire, anyone who goes to you might be considered a part of your group. I remember during the Christmas break, one of my cousins, barkado ko nung bata sa probinsya, nasa kulungan. And because he was Oplang Tokhang ba yun? Tokhang or whatever. Tokhang or whatever. Na-raid yung bahay, may drugs, kulong. And the police asked for money, they gave naman. Ang problema, when they gave, they wanted more money. Ay na bumayag. Nasa kulungan yung cousin ko. So, I wanted to visit him. Kasi he's really a friend of mine. Kasi ko na friend ko pa. Barkado, my age, my classmate in the province. But there's 2 points lang that became a consideration. One is sabi sa akin ng uncle ko, Bob, baka it's not a good idea kasi baka pagkamalang ka, drug user rin. Na, ba't ka bumibisita dito? Baka mga barkado itong mga pusher rin. And second, baka mahiyado yung cousin ko sa akin. Same is true during that time eh. When fellow Christians try to minister to people in jail, they get marked eh. This must be also one of those followers, those insurgent guys.